Hello students, and welcome to our steep turns execution video. Before we jump into the cockpit, let's quickly discuss the objective of this maneuver and some key factors that we will be focusing on. The objective of a steep turn is to develop a pilot's skill in flight control smoothness and coordination, an awareness of the airplane's orientation to outside references, and division of attention between flight control application and the need to scan for hazards. In this maneuver execution video, we will not be covering detailed aerodynamics, maneuver diagrams, common student errors, or the ACS standards. This video is to simply explain and demonstrate the execution of the maneuver and will vary based on the aircraft you are flying. To see all of those additional details we just mentioned and to study this lesson's full-length presentation, podcast, diagrams, flashcards, lesson quiz, and more, look up the steep turns lesson on our website at wificfi.com. Lastly, before we jump into the cockpit, there are a couple key factors that we need to cover regarding this maneuver. First, we are going to begin the video of the maneuver demonstration at a safe altitude. So we're going to be about 2,500 feet AGL in the practice area. Next, in the practice area, we'll go ahead and complete our clearing turns to ensure that there is no traffic in our immediate vicinity. We'll either do a left 90 and a right 90 turn, or we might just do a full 180 degree turn. We'll be in the cruise configuration, and from this cruise configuration and altitude, we'll adjust our airspeed to remain below our VA maneuvering speed throughout the maneuver. So whatever your VA speed is for your aircraft, you need to select a speed that is slower than maneuvering speed, and you have to do this entire maneuver below that speed. So in today's example, we're going to be doing these steep turns at 100 knots. We'll then select our outside visual reference point, and we're going to bug it with our heading bug. So we'll pick a mountain peak or a road or a building, and we'll sync our heading bug up with whatever we pick. Then essentially we'll be ready to begin our maneuver. So we'll smoothly roll into a 45 degree bank if you're doing it for private pilot, or a 50 degree bank if you're doing it for commercial pilot, to the left. Okay, we're going to start to the left. So remember, 45 degrees for private pilot, 50 degrees for commercial pilot, and we're going to start our first turn to the left. As our bank angle is increasing to the left, we're going to need to increase some power and increase some back elevator pressure and or trim to maintain our entry altitude and airspeed. If we don't do that, we're either going to get low or slow. So as the bank's increasing, we're going to have to increase our power and our back elevator pressure or trim. And then we'll complete a 360 degree turn to the left. As this turn approaches its completion, about half of the ground speed in degrees. So if we're doing a 50 degree bank turn, about half the ground speed, which would be 25, so 25 degrees before we get to our outside visual reference or our heading bug, we'll gently start to roll that turn back to wings level so that we roll out on our visual reference point. During this rollout process, we're going to need to make sure that we increase forward pressure on the controls and or trim to prevent the airplane from climbing. Okay, because as we're decreasing that bank angle, we're going to be getting more lift, so we're going to have to hold forward on the control pressures. You will then immediately go into our steep turn to the right, and we'll do a 360 degree turn in that direction using the exact same techniques and principles. And upon completion of that second turn, we'll go ahead and roll wings level on our entry heading, at our entry altitude, and on our entry airspeed, and then we'll just reconfigure the aircraft for cruising flight. So let's get out there, hop in the cockpit, and show you guys how this is done. Alrighty, we are here at our airplane, ready to do this steep turn for you guys. Remember, the first thing that you always want to do before you complete any maneuver is your clearing turn. So we're going to go ahead, hop in the cockpit here. I'm going to set up a 180 degree clearing turn to the left for us. So we'll go ahead, pop around to heading 180, and as we do this, we'll be looking for traffic. And then I want to show you a couple other things we have set up in the cockpit before we execute this maneuver. And get our heading bug all the way over there. Okay, there's 180. we're outside the airplane and we are looking for traffic, making sure that there's nobody in the vicinity that would be a hazard for us. Okay, a couple other things I want to show you. We are established at a safe altitude in the practice area here. We are 7,000 feet, which is 2,500 feet AGL for the area that we're in. We are going to pick our outside visual reference now, which I'm going to use that little half mountain or hill, I guess you can see, out in front of us. So it looks like our heading bug is basically already bugged for our entry and exit headings, which is perfect. So we're going to use that little mountain point as our visual reference, and we're at a speed of 100 knots, exactly where we want to be, which is below our VA maneuvering speed. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and kick off the autopilot. Once I do, I'll probably have to retrim the aircraft just a little bit too. So I'm going to kick off the autopilot, we'll retrim the aircraft just a bit, and then I'm going to begin that 45 to 50 degree bank to the left. We'll add in a little bit of power, add in some back trim, back pressure on the yoke to maintain our altitude and our airspeed. We'll bring it all the way around for a 360 degree turn to the left. We'll roll back out on our little mountain point here, and then we'll do a 360 degree turn to the right, roll back out, and retrim it for cruise. So I think that's it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get to it. Just making sure everything's still good again. Okay, airspeed, altitude, everything looking fantastic. So we'll go ahead and kick off our autopilot. Like I said, I got to retrim it usually when I kick off the autopilot here on the sim. So we'll get the aircraft re-trimmed out, make sure everything's nice and stable. Not doing anything too crazy. Alright, I'm feeling good. So let's go ahead and start our bank to the left. Remember, again, just nice and smooth. What I like to do is once you're passing about 25-30 degrees to the left, start adding that back pressure, start adding some power in on your controls, and we're going to bring it all the way over. Looks like we're climbing just a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and hold that nose down so I don't get too high. Put in a little bit too much back pressure over to that 45 degrees of bank, and we're just looking outside, just kind of dragging our nose along the horizon outside. Okay, we're glancing inside to check our airspeed and our altitude here, just making sure everything's looking good. If we're still climbing again, I'll trim down just a little more. There we go. Airspeed's looking good, altitude's looking good, heading's looking good. As we're coming up on our outside visual reference point, we're going to go ahead and bring the wings level, just nice and smooth. And we're going to be holding the nose forward so that we don't climb, and we're rolling straight into our same bank to the right. We can go ahead and start to release some of that forward pressure that we are holding. And now we're just going to drag the nose of our aircraft across the horizon to the right, making small adjustments with our yoke and our trim to maintain our altitude, our airspeed, making sure our bank's looking good, altitude and airspeed, everything's looking good as we bring this guy around for our 360 degree turn to the right. Again, if you're trimmed out well, it's just small adjustments. Coming up on our outside visual reference point, we'll go ahead and roll the wings level. I'm going to hold the nose forward again and trim down so that we don't climb. We're back on our heading. Boom, 180, altitude 7,000 feet, and 100 knots on our airspeed. So then we could just go ahead and retrim, reconfigure the aircraft if you needed to configure it a different way for your cruise flight. But other than that, that is it, guys. That is how we do steep turns, one to the left, one to the right. Remember, 45 degrees for private and 50 degrees for commercial. So thanks for joining us on this lesson, guys, and we will see you on the next execution maneuver coming up soon.